Do you ever feel like you're just stuck? You're on that treadmill at work, putting in the hours, you're getting good feedback, but your paycheck? It just seems to be permanently a neutral. Well, today, we're going to explore exactly why that happens. And way more importantly, we're going to lay out a clear plan to help you shatter that invisible ceiling. So let's jump right in.
First things first, let's name the enemy here, because this isn't just your problem. It's a systemic thing that affects millions of people. We call it the invisible salary ceiling. And it's that incredibly frustrating wall you hit where no matter how hard you work or what you accomplish, your income just stops growing.
So that leads to the really big question, right? Why? Why does this happen? You get the positive reviews, you hit your targets, but then at the end of the year, that financial reward just feels, well, totally underwhelming. And I'm telling you, it's not just a string of bad luck. So much of this frustration can be boiled down to just one number, 3%. Yep, that's it. That's the typical annual raise in most corporate jobs. It's usually presented as some kind of reward, but let's be real, it's the anchor that's weighing down your entire financial progress.
Now, here's the really brutal truth about that little 3% raise. The moment inflation enters the picture, it basically vanishes. Poof. That tiny bump gets completely swallowed up by the rising cost of everything, which means your actual spending power isn't growing at all. In fact, you might even be going backwards.
And here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. A stagnant salary is not a personal failure. It is a feature of the corporate system. There are these invisible traps built right into the whole 9-to-5 structure that are pretty much designed to keep you locked into the same earning bracket year after year. Okay, so let's dive into the first and honestly probably the biggest trap of them all, loyalty. We're sort of taught to believe that staying with one company is this great virtue that's going to be rewarded down the line. But the hard truth is, when it comes to your salary, that loyalty, it can be the most expensive mistake you ever make. And this brings us to what we call the 5-year rule. All the data shows that after about 3 to 5 years in the same company, your potential for a really big pay raise just drops off a cliff. Think about it from their side. They already have you, you're productive, and they have you at a set rate. There's almost no financial reason for them to give you a massive jump in pay. And when you look at it over time, the difference is just staggering. Over a decade, you have the loyalist, who stays put, and their salary just kind of creeps up with those tiny 3% raises. But then you have the escape artist, the person who makes a few smart, strategic job moves. They're negotiating big 20, maybe even 30% jumps with each new role. They aren't just earning more. They are playing in a completely different financial league. This quote really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The comfort of that familiar job, the fear of what's out there, it keeps so many of us from making the very moves that could totally change our financial future. That comfort, it comes with a really, really high price tag. Okay, so now it's time for a little self-reflection. Let's walk through some of the most common traps that keep people underpaid. And as we go through these, I want you to be honest with yourself and think about which ones might be holding you back right now. All right, the first trap is just flying blind. Most people just kind of hope they're being paid fairly. An escape artist? No way. They do the research. They're on sites like Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and Payscale, and they find the hard data on what their skills are actually worth on the open market. You could be leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table and not even realize it. Oh man, this one is huge. When you get a job offer, it feels like the finish line, right? But it's not. It's actually the starting line for a negotiation. You have to remember, companies almost always have a higher budget set aside for the role. So when you accept that first number they throw out, you're basically giving yourself a voluntary pay cut. And here's a really subtle but super critical trap. If all of your skills are tied to your current company's weird, unique software or their internal processes, you have zero leverage. You've got to focus on building portable skills, things like project management, coding, digital marketing, skills that are valuable to any employer out there. That's where your power comes from. All right, so we've diagnosed the problem, we've identified the traps. Now, let's get to the good stuff, the solution. Here is a clear, actionable 3-step plan you can use to start breaking free. So the escape plan really boils down to 3 core actions. First, stop guessing and start knowing. Get the hard data on your market value. Second, you have to reframe the conversation in your head. This isn't asking for a personal favor, it's a business transaction. And third, you have to generate leverage. Because trust me, nothing speaks louder to your current boss than a better offer from another company. Now here's a key part of negotiation. You have to think beyond just the base salary. If a manager tells you the salary budget is fixed, pivot, ask for a signing bonus, ask for more vacation days, or a budget for courses and certifications. These things often come from completely different departmental budgets and are way easier for them to get approved. Ultimately, this is about way more than just tactics. It's about a fundamental shift in how you see your own career. It's really about adopting the identity of an escape artist. It really all comes down to a choice between two mindsets. On one hand, you have the employee mindset, which is passive. You're grateful just to have a job, you wait for raises to be given to you. But then there's the professional mindset, the escape artist's mindset, and that is proactive. You see yourself as a business of one, a skilled professional who knows their market value and acts accordingly. I love this quote because it's such a powerful reminder of the difference between just repetition and actual progress. Real, valuable experience comes from tackling new challenges, from learning new skills, from adapting to new environments, not just from clocking in and out at the same desk for a decade and a half. So that brings us to our final question for you today. In 5 years, who are you going to be? The person who stays put, just kind of hoping things get better, or the person who takes calculated risks to make strategic moves? The choice you make today is what defines your financial reality tomorrow. And the power to change it, well, that's all yours.